Have you ever listened to a story that stays with you long after it ends? Today you're about to hear one of those stories, a story that will touch your heart and make you see life a little differently. Stay with me until the end, because The Watchmaker's Apprentice is not just a beautiful and powerful story. It's a reflection on patience, purpose, and the true rhythm of life. And there's more. While you enjoy this unforgettable journey, you'll also be improving your English skills naturally and effortlessly. So sit back, relax, and let yourself be inspired. When I was 17, I believed I understood everything there was to know about life. I believed that speed was the answer to every problem, that ambition could move mountains, and that patience was merely an excuse invented by those who weren't brave enough to chase what they wanted. In my mind, life was a race, and the faster you ran, the better you lived. Then I met Mr. Adler. Mr. Adler was a watchmaker, but not just any watchmaker. He was the last true artisan left in our small, fading town. His shop was tucked between an abandoned tailor's store and a crumbling bookstore, a narrow little place with a worn-out blue awning and a dusty sign that simply read, Adler's Timepieces. I stumbled into his shop one rainy afternoon, dripping wet and carrying a half-hearted resume folded into my jacket pocket. I had been searching for a part-time job, something to earn a bit of money for college, for my dreams, for my so-called future. When I saw the small handwritten sign taped to the door, Apprentice Wanted, I thought it was fate calling. Mr. Adler barely looked at me when I entered. He was hunched over a battered desk cluttered with gears, springs, and fragments of ancient watches, working with a tiny magnifying glass perched on his nose. I stood there awkwardly until he finally spoke without lifting his eyes. "Do you have good hands?" he asked. I hesitated. "I think so," I replied. "And can you listen more than you speak?" I nodded eagerly. He finally looked up, studying me with a pair of steel-grey eyes that seemed to see more than just the surface. He said nothing for a long moment, then simply muttered, "Come back tomorrow." And just like that, I had a job. The next afternoon, I showed up early, excited and ready to learn the secrets of watchmaking. I imagined myself crafting delicate masterpieces within weeks, maybe even opening my own shop someday. But Mr. Adler had different plans. For the first few weeks, all I did was clean. I polished dusty shelves, scrubbed stubborn grease from old gears, and wiped fingerprints off glass cases until my arms ached. Every day I swept the same wooden floor, organized the same tiny parts, and washed the same brass clock faces. Sometimes it felt like the clocks were mocking me with their endless ticking. At first, I was patient. After all, every apprentice had to start somewhere, right? But as days turned into weeks, my frustration grew. I started to wonder if Mr. Adler had any intention of actually teaching me anything useful. One evening, as I was wiping down the same cabinet for the third time that week, I finally blurted out, "When are you going to teach me how to fix a watch?" Mr. Adler looked up from his bench and gave me a long, measured stare. Then he said, "You're already learning the most important thing." I didn't understand. I thought he was just brushing me off, wasting my time. But I said nothing more. I just tightened my grip on the rag and kept wiping. Several weeks later, he finally placed a battered pocket watch on the table in front of me and handed me a set of delicate tools. "Fix it," he said simply. My heart raced with excitement. I had watched him countless times, studying the precise way he moved, the care he gave each piece. I thought I was ready. I wasn't. As soon as I opened the case, tiny gears and springs burst out like a flock of frightened birds. I panicked, trying to jam the pieces back into place. My fingers, too clumsy and impatient, bent a critical spring. I scratched the inner casing. I lost a screw on the dusty floor. After an hour, I sat there, red-faced and defeated, while Mr. Adler watched silently. Finally, he said, "You rushed. You forced what should have been coaxed. You treated the watch like an enemy to be conquered, not like a companion to be understood." I lowered my eyes, burning with embarrassment. He gently gathered the broken pieces, placed them back into the velvet-lined box, and said, "Come back tomorrow." And so I did. Day after day, he handed me broken watches. Each time, I failed differently. I bent springs. I lost tiny screws. I broke balance wheels. And every time, Mr. Adler remained patient, never raising his voice, never criticizing harshly, only repeating the same words. "Listen to the watch. It will tell you what it needs." Slowly, painfully, something inside me shifted. I stopped treating the task like a battle. I began to notice how each watch was slightly different. The tension of the springs, the weight of the gears, the subtle resistance of the winding stems. I learned to breathe slowly, to steady my hands, to move with intention instead of speed. One day, nearly a year after I first entered Adler's shop, I fixed a watch. Not perfectly, not elegantly, but enough. When I wound it, it ticked, steadily and surely. I looked up at Mr. Adler, expecting some grand praise, but he just smiled quietly and said, "Now you are beginning to learn." In the months that followed, he taught me more. How to feel the heartbeat of a mechanical movement, how to recognize a damaged gear by sound alone, how to diagnose a fault by the faintest hesitation in a second-hand sweep. But the most important lessons weren't about watches. They were about patience, about attention, about humility. One evening, as we closed the shop, Mr. Adler shared something with me I never forgot. "Time," he said, as he carefully locked away the day's work, "is not an enemy to defeat. It is a friend to walk beside." I went on to college. I studied engineering. I moved to a big city. My life picked up pace once more. Deadlines, traffic, ambition. But no matter how fast the world moved around me, there was always a part of me that remembered the slow, deliberate rhythm of Mr. Adler's shop. I visited him whenever I came home for holidays. Each time the shop seemed a little older, a little dustier, but always alive with the ticking of countless clocks. And Mr. Adler himself, smaller now, a bit more fragile, always welcomed me with the same steady gaze. He passed away quietly one autumn evening. At his funeral, the church was filled with people from every corner of the town, people whose lives he had touched in small but profound ways. Afterward, his daughter approached me with a small, carefully wrapped box. "He left this for you," she said. Inside was the first watch I had ever repaired, the one I thought was so simple, yet had taught me so much. It was still ticking, steady, and strong. There was also a short handwritten note. Time is not something to race against. It is something to walk beside. Now, years later, whenever I feel myself getting lost in the rush of modern life, I take out that old pocket watch. I listen to its heartbeat. I remember Mr. Adler's shop, the smell of old wood and oil, the endless ticking, the patient man who taught me not just how to fix watches, but how to live. I realize now that the true test of life isn't how quickly we succeed, or how far we can race ahead. It's about how deeply we understand the moments we're given. It's about learning when to act and when to wait, when to build and when to simply be still. And most importantly, it's about learning that some things, the best things, are only revealed slowly to those who are willing to wait and truly listen. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this story. If The Watchmaker's Apprentice made you think, feel, or simply gave you a moment of inspiration, imagine how many more stories are waiting for you here. If you enjoyed this journey and want to keep improving your English while discovering powerful stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment sharing what this story meant to you. Join our community and let's keep learning, growing, and dreaming together. See you in the next video.